Our biggest competition isn't another console. We are competing more and more with everything from TikTok to movies. Xbox, the reason why you aren't doing well is not because of TikTok. You need to get out of the way. You need to get out of the way so more companies can innovate and fill the void. A botched launch of Halo Campaign Evolved has brought Xbox into the conversation again. Of course, more of the status quo from them doing poorly and mismanaging their only thing they have, which is a few IPs and some development studios, along with Game Pass, I suppose. A somewhat unnecessary remake with unfaithful changes and modernizations is exactly what Xbox needed to put out right now. This is going to really give them some good press. Definitely. What could possibly go wrong? And of course, the icing on the cake, which I don't think this is necessarily a negative or positive, just something that is very, well, telling, I suppose, is the fact that it will be releasing on PlayStation. Yes, Halo, Microsoft Xbox's darling, is going to be on a Sony PlayStation. This is a very strange time to be living in, but I'm not surprised, and I don't think many other people are. The writing has been on the wall for Xbox's downfall, or at least pivot away from being a main competitor, a main pillar of the three, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. But amongst Game Pass price hikes and repeated console and accessory price increases, they're seeming more and more desperate for your dollars. And their solutions to getting your dollars is to completely avoid what makes or made the video games that they had for Xbox special all those years ago. You know, we live in an age of uninspiration when it comes to video games, and really many things, even movies as well. But, you know, you see just remakes, reboots, movies that didn't necessarily need sequels, video games that didn't necessarily need remakes, but here we are. And I think that Xbox is one of the worst perpetrators of this type of thinking. They seem to want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to play it safe and just stick with like what we know. You know, oh hey, Halo worked at one point, so let's just keep doing Halo. There's nothing wrong with that in a vacuum. But when you extrapolate it out to their whole business practices, seeing them just doing the same thing over and over, well, there stops really being a reason for anyone to go to your console other than maybe a good deal when it comes to Game Pass. But I mean, who would want to own an Xbox now? You can't even open up the thing without getting ads. Xbox genuinely needs to just get out of the way. They need to step aside if they want to be a developer or just like a game publisher and not someone that is going to really be like, you know, a big pillar of the gaming community. They need to just do it. Just get it over with. I'm honestly like sick of hearing about Xbox and just all the L's that they've been taking nonstop. But the thing is, it wouldn't be perceived as L's, as I put it, but if they were more open and honest about it. And I can see that they're like kind of trying to be a little bit, but this like weird spoon-fed approach where they're like slowly trying to rip off the Band-Aid is just awkward, and I think it's ruining the reputation even more if that's somehow possible. They need to just come out of the gates and just go, hey, look, we don't want to do this anymore. We would rather be a subscription service or something that people can buy as a value proposition. We don't really care about creating things anymore. We don't care about pushing what can be done in video games. We're going to play it safe. We're going to release the titles that you would expect from us, but we're not going to, you know, put on a E3 tier level of performance here. You know, we are just going to be what we're going to be. And I would respect that more because it would at least allow someone else to fill that gap. I don't know who would fill that gap right this second, but I think that there would be more of a chance for someone to if they would just move out of the way. Now, of course, why would they want that? Why would they want someone to take their place as a pillar? Well, ironically, if they want to be just the subscription service that has the good deal where you can have all the games for a monthly price, but we still release our games multi-platform to the consoles that want it. Another console another big name would actually be good for them, because then they would start carrying their games as well, potentially. Of course, it depends on who the competitor is. Would it just be more of a PlayStation style console, or would it be going down the more Nintendo style of console? That would make a difference in, how they would want to partner with them or, give them their games. But in any case, regardless of if they want it or not, I don't really care at this point. I'm tired of this bare minimum approach. A lot of people look at sales numbers. A lot of people will look at attachment rates. A lot of people will look at volume and what months did the best and this and that. Those things are important. But for me, I do have an opinion on this, just on the emotional level of just tired. That's the feeling I get when I see Xbox. It's just tired. And I'm tired of seeing them do these lazy practices, pissing off the only fans they do have, and hurting the game industry as a whole and setting very bad examples. I want them out of the way. I'm just so tired of it. Go away. I personally think the writing was on the wall back in 2020 when they released the Xbox Series S, which was just a digital-only paperweight, something that you could only buy digital games for. And I understand that not everyone cares about physical media, not everyone has an interest in having to physically put a disc in the system, but to me that was a push towards Xbox, ironically, not being a box anymore. Xbox is just being a service. And personally, I don't have any interest in that service. I think it's tacky and gross. There's already so many subscription services. Everything wants your monthly dollars. It's just extremely oversaturated and very tiring. I would rather buy a game and enjoy it. Having all these options was fatiguing. And that's kind of how I see something like Xbox Game Pass, is it's shoving so many things in your face that, how could you possibly play them all? And I understand that that's kind of the whole point, right? The whole point is that, you have so many things, so it's such a good deal, but really, you only have a finite amount of time, and you're paying for whatever the few games you do end up playing, because no one can play every game. Maybe you could if you just somehow were just going all in. But for most people, they can't play every game. So instead of purchasing maybe 3 or 4 games a month, they're paying the $30 fee, but then they're paying it again and again and again and again and again. And if you haven't picked up enough new games throughout the year, well, you've ended up overpaying for the few that you did play. I would actually be curious to see the data on that. What is the average amount of games installed on a system and that has maybe over an hour into it for the average Xbox Game Pass holder? I'd be very curious to see that, because I think that you would find that most people aren't getting as much value out of it as it would seem. But either way, if Xbox had their perfect dream scenario, they would want Game Pass to be on every device, which lines up with the whole everything is an Xbox thing. But I mean every device. I mean your Nintendo Switch. I mean your PlayStation. They want to be kind of another storefront, except it's not a store, it's a subscription service. That's what they want. Their approach now is to just be the Netflix of video games, which I don't think as many people want as they think. The average gamer has the games they're interested in, maybe a few that some friends recommend them, and that's pretty much it. It's only the hardcore people that are really going to be playing more than, 5 games a month, as in full playthroughs, putting as much time as the game deserves into it to really get the most out of the experience. So in my opinion, especially with the price hike, it is not a good deal. And speaking of bad deals, the Halo campaign Evolved, we don't even know the price of yet. It's likely going to be $50 to $70 for something that wasn't really necessary and is launching on PlayStation almost not even as a game that they think people are going to necessarily care about, but more of a statement. And I don't like what they're saying. I want them out of the way. If they want to be a publisher of just games, then I would rather they just do that. But I don't like this weird parasitism where they're just slowly trying to get their little claws into PlayStation and perhaps Nintendo. I want them as far away from it as possible. And I really hope that people show them that. I think you're going to see it. I don't think the Halo for PlayStation is going to sell nearly as well as it should, right? Like, the idea of a Halo being on PlayStation should be insane. I've seen nothing but criticism for it, and it's going to be very funny to watch this fall flat. And just think of how it feels to be an Xbox fan right now. You know, someone who, even through all of this, for some reason, stuck with them. Just through blind loyalty or, I don't know, whatever. But they're here, and now they're just putting the middle finger to them and saying, hey, you have no reason to support us. We're putting Halo on PlayStation. Now, again, I don't think that Halo being on PlayStation is like inherently a bad thing. I'm not like some purist in that sense, but I do think that it is telling, like I said, that they do not care about really having a fan base. They don't care about an Xbox fan. They just care about a Game Pass customer. That's the way they look at it. And that's all they've been showing us. If to them, their main competition is TikTok in movies, then they are so far away from reality that it hurts. And I feel for any Xbox fans out there, but you've been abandoned. I mean, I think you were abandoned quite a bit ago, but now, more than ever, you have been left in the dust. And I might be speaking to nobody here. I don't think there's many of them left. You know, Xbox came out the same year that Sega stopped supporting the Dreamcast. Xbox was supposed to pick up where Sega left off and do it right. And they did for a long time. But I would say starting with the 8th generation of consoles, Xbox has not been the same. Xbox post the 360 has been miserable. I think it's time for them to get out of the way. I want a competent company to take their place. A company that will push the industry forward. A company that will make PlayStation and Nintendo sweat a little bit. Make them have to work. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but it would absolutely happen faster if Xbox would kindly just scooch out of the way. Just nudge them out of the way. Go away. I've already made a video showing how they don't even have Xbox games in a lot of stores anymore. So let's continue on that track. Let's just go all in. No more Xbox in a retail setting. You're only online. You're only a subscription service. Let's let those shelves be filled by someone who deserves them. I'm Goobles. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.